Hey ESPN, I'm Jack.
And I'm Miles from the Daily Zeitgeist, a daily comedic news podcast that answers the question,
what if Stephen A. Smith spoke at a normal volume and his opinions were based on fact and not completely insane? This probably isn't the best way to describe this.
No, you just negated the two things Stephen A. Smith is known for.
Okay, what if The Daily Show was hosted by us?
Yes, but who is us?
Okay, I'm Jack. I'm the co-founder of Crack.com.
And I'm Miles. I love soccer and get very nervous when I'm pulled over by the police.
He's also a former lobbyist who quit politics for comedy.
Yeah. Well, look, we covered news, the president, pop culture, and we're both very big sports fans.
I'm actually named after my grandfather, legendary NBA coach and ESPN alum Dr. Jack Ramsey.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm named after Miles Davis, the legendary heroin addict who is not my grandfather.
So search the Daily Zeitgeist. If you don't know how to spell zeitgeist, like most of us, just type in Daily Z. It'll figure it out for you. On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are given away for free.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head to death. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood. Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me your boom.
Hey, it's Jalen Rose.
What up, dope?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in.
And we are Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio. What do, Jalen?
We can define individuals who consistently support this program for at least 5 years, exactly what they want, when they want it, when they need it.
Shout out.
That's exactly right. Jalen Rose, our colleague, my man, Ethan Strauss, was on the True Hoop podcast. You know, things get real comfortable in the podcast room. Just feels like no one's listening, and you get a little comfy, and you just start spilling beans about the team that you cover. Strauss is close with the Warriors team, and here's what he had to say on the True Hoop podcast.
Is this malaise of theirs, is it about not feeling motivated, not thinking they have something to play for? Is it just being tired? But, you know, there's one guy in particular on the team who keeps saying the same thing to me, and I can't say who he is, but he keeps saying we've got problems, and it ain't basketball.
We've got problems, and it ain't basketball, says someone that wears the Golden State uniform. What does that mean to you, Mr. Rose?
Not much.
Really?
What? Each group of 15 individuals are not going to consistently see eye to eye, regardless of your workplace or endeavor or sport. That's how life works. He didn't say that on the floor there's a mutiny happening where players are flagrantly not running what the coach asks, or not passing the ball to one another, not communicating on purpose, doing things that might become a detriment to them winning basketball games. When you've been with a group of people for a couple of years too, there are differences in personality,
of course,
of style,
in any group dynamic,
of exposure.
Anyone listening to this, whether it's family, whether it's professional, any sort of group, there are going to be problems. However, if you think back to just last year when the Warriors did not win the championship, just a year ago today, there were no problems. There were no basketball problems. There were no off-court problems. It was just singing on the plane to OT Genesis on the way home from wins. Everything's all good. It's a step back now. They're not playing well right now, and they are saying, maybe half on wax, half off wax, to Ethan, that there are problems off the basketball court. And you're saying that's not that big a deal?
I'm saying it's not a big a deal because this is what happens when adversity hits. You just described a historic NBA season where they won the most games of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't have to deal with the normal peaks and valleys that every squad has to endure. You saw how when Kawhi was walking to the bench the other night, Pop was in his backside.
Demonstrative.
Okay? These are the things that happen when you go on to lose to the Portland Trailblazers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is what happens when you're not having the level of success this year in Golden State, and you're comparing it to an all-time great season of last year. And also, there's a level of fatigue emotionally and physically that takes place when you're not as deep.
Yeah.
You're now requiring players to not only have to consistently do more, which they are professional basketball players than you expect, but at the same time, in a group dynamic, they had more players last year.
Mm-hmm.
That strength in numbers thing was real. Spates was giving them buckets and minutes until he missed that dunk in the finals, and he was done.
Harrison Barnes is playing a lot of minutes.
Ezeli, Bogut, Barbosa. So you lose that moniker and adopt strength in all-stars, where your leading scorer, one of your leading rebounders and shot blockers, who happens to be a former MVP, is now out. So now you're asking everybody else, like in the tug of war, to pull a bigger piece, and it can be something that creates emotion amongst players.
Is it unfair that whenever anything goes wrong with the Warriors and whenever there's a suggestion that there's some sort of chemistry problem, that everybody points their finger at who?
Day-Day?
Draymond Green. Is it unfair?
When you're the outspoken personality and you're put in position to be that type of leader in a group dynamic, there will be people that are mad at you certain days. Mm-hmm. Been there. Yeah. Done that. Yeah. College, pros, professional life, personal life. It comes with the territory. There are times when I wake up in the morning, and if there's X amount of people that I influence directly, indirectly, it's almost like an equalizer. How happy or upset or disappointed certain individuals may be in me that day, because that's my role in the situation. So that's the burden and or the pleasure of somebody like Draymond, who's required to do that for his basketball team.
But I want to be clear. In my opinion, Draymond is not just a net positive, he is a net huge positive. Whatever negativity, like whatever argument he gets in with people or whatever that, just watch what he does on the court. And you know what? And also sometimes that negativity, sometimes that sort of tension is good for a team.
When you talk about the best teams and one attribute up front, and I'm talking about players that play minutes at 3, 4, and 5, if you were going to say what's the most unique thing that happens in their front court or the most thing that's irreplaceable, you'll go to San Antonio and you'll talk about Kawhi Leonard being a dynamic two-way player that can make threes, make free throws, and when the game is on the line, you're still going to go to him for your game-winning shot. You go to LeBron James because he's an all-time great, and he's getting towards the Mount Rushmore. Then you look at Draymond Green and say, wait a minute, he's 6'7", and he's guarding power forwards and centers, leading the Golden State Warriors in rebounds and assists and steals. He had a game this year where he had a triple-double and didn't have 10 points.
Can I go one more place? There's a gentleman named Giannis Antetokounmpo. Is he top 20 in the league in points?
Yes.
Top 20 in the league in rebounds?
Yes.
Top 20 in the league in assists?
Yes.
Top 20 in the league in blocks?
Yes.
How impressive is that?
It's so impressive that since blocks and steals were kept as a statistic, and I think that was the early 70s, no player has been in the top 20 in all of those categories. But I didn't mention him because unlike Draymond, Kawhi, and LeBron, this year he's not on the top-tier team.
Not even close. Nope. Jalen, it's not a black and white world. It's not a yes or no world. A lot of gray area. We explore this gray area in a segment called 0 to 100. Are you ready to go 0 to 100?
Let's get it.
When Russell Westbrook found out that Steph Curry has chosen James Harden as the NBA MVP, Russell Westbrook responded by saying this.
I don't care. No matter what he's saying. Who is he?
0 to 100. Has Westbrook's anger made him more likable?
For me, I've already appreciated that passion from back in the day. So I'll say 50% because he hasn't changed. That's why I've always affectionately called him what?
Furious Styles. Excellent nickname. But his furosity, the warming up on the other side during the All-Star, laughing at him, avoiding KD, never really acknowledging each other as teammates and former brothers. This has been fueling him, and this sort of like man on a mission, this rage inside him, to me makes him more likable in sort of a way that's kind of the opposite of Steph Curry, his sort of approachability, his little kid charm, his goofiness. Westbrook is the opposite of goofy, and it makes me love him just as much, but in a very different way. I find Westbrook more likable the angrier he gets.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, as media members, we overreact. In particular, this is a perfect example. Who do you think Steph Curry is going to say is going to win MVP? Who's he playing with right now?
He should say Kevin Durant.
No, he's not going to win it. He's trying to be realistic, but also if there's a tie, he's not going to give it to Russell Westbrook, the runner. He's rolling with KD now, and you just got finished saying how Russell is in theory is the opponent now. He's the enemy now, so he's not going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Do you think James Harden and the Rockets are a much more formidable threat for the Western Conference crown?
I do.
You ready for this, Eric?
Without KD, however, you got to watch for two things. One, can Golden State keep the number 1 seed? 2, if they fall to the second slot, they're going to play Oklahoma City in the first round. And if Kevin Durant is not healthy, they will not advance.
Nope. Not sure I'm with you on that one. 0 to 100. How much of you expect...
Yeah, I don't believe that.
How much of you... I love doing this show with you.
Yeah, they'd be Oklahoma City without KD. I had to calculate that in my brain real quick.
You're my favorite.
It took me some time to calculate it. I filled out about 3 brackets before I turned one in.
It sounded good when you said it, though.
Yeah.
It sounded good when you said it.
It sounded good initially, but no, I'm not going to be able to do it.
0 to 100. How much of you expects to see Dwayne Wade in a Bulls uniform next season? He's been shut down for this season.
How much are they required to pay him?
$24-point-something million.
There's a good chance he'd be back in Chicago.
Think so?
I know he has a player option.
Would he take a haircut to go somewhere else where he would be happier? It does not. You know what? When you're like, look, we're not in the locker room. We don't know what it's like. You know, media members always say we don't know what's really going on behind closed doors. We have a lot of indication that there was some turmoil behind closed doors in Chicago this year.
Correct.
What percentage of you expects him to be in the locker room next season?
49%.
And 51% of you expects him to
leave
and go
Miami Mafia.
I love it when you say that. What? I love it when you say that. Remember when you first heard that. Remember, Jalen's been saying this for a while, but remember, March 16th, Jalen Rose predicted that Dwayne Wade goes back to Miami.
Because how it happens is this. They were going to pay you 24. We're going to start right now because we broke up because of money. Mm-hmm. We clearly can't match that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're going to have a statue in front of the building. We're going to raise your banner. You won 3 championships here. You know about the loyalty we have from top to bottom. We ain't going to be able to make it up to you with your contract next year, but you know we're going to take care of you as a legacy player for the franchise.
What kind of deal is that called, Mr.
Wink.
Rose?
Wink.
Do you think Gabrielle Union would be happier in Chicago or in Miami?
She's happy long as he's happy. I love them as a couple. We don't give them enough love
as a power
the way
couple.
We embrace power couples.
We should. Jeff Hornacek said that some players around the league are going to look at the New York Knicks and the triangle offense and say, I want to go there. I want to run the triangle. What? 0 to 100.
What?
How much does Jeff Hornacek believe it when he says that?
He sounds like the guy this year that wanted to come to the Super Bowl party, and he had a bag filled with tapes as the music. And he hits the door. You're like, where are we going to play those? We don't have a tape cassette. Like, what are we going to do with those? I mean, I like that KRS-One tape.
Good music
that
in
Public
there.
Enemy tape.
Yeah, it's a good
you got some
song.
classics
I like
in
what
there.
you're doing. This is
No
all
doubt.
smart. I look forward to hearing these.
Correct. Like, it's so out of touch and out of time. The triangle, as a straight function of your offense being the primary driving force, is just outdated based on the spots you need to fill on the strong side of the ball. If you have a player at the top of the floor, on the wing, and in the corner, and on the post, all on one side of the floor, and it's only one guy on the weak side, guess what? All they're going to do is overload the strong side of the ball. They're going to get the rebound, and they're going to throw an outlet pass like a football pass to a guy streaking for a layup every time. It's just the function of it and the spacing now that you can play zone makes it an offense that it just disappoints me to hear that being said.
I don't think
so
he believes
unrealistic.
it. I don't think he even believes it when he says it. I just think he goes home and tells his wife, like, look, I'm just doing it for the paycheck. You know what I mean? Like, I just say whatever I have to say in front of the microphones, but on the 1st and the 15th, the direct deposit goes through, and whatever you say, Phil, I'm going to fall in line.
Like, play these tapes. Remember, you have to knock the little part off the top and then put some tissue paper in it to record on top?
Of course. Yep. Jaylen Brown, after a game, found his car filled with popcorn because he's a rookie. 0 to 100. How played out is the popcorn in the car, Trey? I respect creativity. You know what I mean? I've seen the popcorn in the car video. We saw it 2 years ago. We saw it last year. There are so many other things that you can fill the car with that's not popcorn. I just wish that the NBA players were a little more creative when it comes to hazing people and filling cars with stuff.
98%.
Because you love popcorn so much you would eat it?
It's a waste of popcorn.
I know, that's a good point.
You're wasting food.
For those who don't know, Jalen Rose loves popcorn.
That's the part I never could understand. Like, it's one thing, like, I'm not going to act like I always recycle when I should.
Oh, yeah, you wear T-shirts once and throw them away.
And society better be lucky I don't have a dog, because I will be cleaning up after my dog every single time they use the bathroom. Straight up. I'll be walking outside, be using it on the cement.
Go ahead, say something to me. If you're not a police officer, I'm not
let me tell you something. My dog will be using the bathroom on the concrete, on your grass,
and
in front of buildings.
You can say anything to me about my dog's
I wish I will be picking up after this dog.
I am not moving it
5 times a day. Not going to be able to do
it. Please. Jalen Rose, you ready? We have a statue update. I know this excites you.
It does.
This statue also excited a moose. Let me explain. In Colorado, in someone's yard, they have a statue of a moose.
Let me see. Is medicinal legal in Colorado?
Yeah. Oh, okay, might be involved. Might be involved.
Okay, go ahead. Please continue.
Someone went to a dispensary, came back and decided, you know what? Let's have a statue of a moose in our yard. Do you know what happened to that statue of a moose? Another moose decided to get romantic with it. Do you feel worse for the statue or the moose?
The moose.
The moose.
No question about it.
You feel worse for the moose.
No doubt about it. It's a lot of dry humping.
Yep. Oh, no, we got another update. Do you know where and when Canada Day is?
Do I know where? It should be in Canada.
Good job. Good job.
Okay, when? I'm going to go April 19th.
Close. It was recently. But here's why I ask. This Canada Day in New Brunswick, there was a $1 million lobster heist. What? $1 million worth of lobster was stolen from a New Brunswick seafood company Canada Day. Investigators say a transport truck was stolen, and then that truck was used to steal $1 million of lobster from a refrigerated unit in New Brunswick. I have a lot of questions about this. Number one, were you involved?
You're going to get me in trouble.
Were you involved in the $1 million lobster heist?
I probably wasn't physically there, but I may have known some people involved.
Okay. Did you have these people steal this lobster for your own personal consumption or for financial gain?
Personal consumption. Lifetime supply.
Stash. Yeah. Just somewhere you've got like a storage unit.
Lifetime supply.
Somewhere in Long Beach, just full of lobsters.
No doubt.
Keeping them alive in a big tank.
Yeah.
Plucking one out every once in a while.
Keeping them in the tank
just getting them well done grilled.
Keeping them in the tank like fish.
Yeah. This is what I like from this. The heist was perhaps the most lucrative in a series of lobster thefts in the Maritimes in the last year, including 2 incidents last month on the wharf in Port Mouton, Nova Scotia. There's a rash of lobster heists all over Canada. This is a very serious problem.
I'm in the wrong country.
A high-level lobster consumer, are you concerned about the lobster market and this driving up the price?
I'm not.
Because you've got a tank full out.
Because I have a lifetime supply. I'm good.
Yep. Eddie Murphy set the internet ablaze. One of his most beloved movies, Coming to America.
Classic.
Yep. People weren't talking about Eddie Murphy. So you know what he did? He tweeted out a picture of Princess Imani and teased a remake of Coming to America. But before you get too excited, what? As more reporting was done, we learned that he is working on a new version of Coming to America, but he is in the early stages of writing it. Is he doing the thing that people do where you put it on wax just to motivate yourself to get it done?
Yes, because what you're describing sounds like a project that we wouldn't be able to pay in theaters to go see for 2 or 3 years.
Oh, 5 years. He's in the early stages of writing it. But I just kind of feel like he's sitting in his house. He's not motivated to get any work done. And he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to float this out there. And I'm going to get all the replies and all the comments and all the blog posts. I'm going to watch Jalen and Jacoby talk about it. And that's going to get the wheels going for a Coming to America remake. But before you speak, let me ask you this question. You're a brilliant producer. Have your own production company. Great mind, creative thinker, innovative.
Thank you. That's mutual.
If you were going to do a Coming to America remake, what would you change? Like, how would you do it? How would you modernize Coming to America?
The restaurant wouldn't be McDowell's. It'd be a sushi spot.
Okay.
What? Yes. I'm being sarcastic.
Control Room didn't like that.
This is not serious.
There's one of those things where I ask you a question because I want to answer it. I do that a lot. Here's my thoughts.
Okay, cool.
Flip it. The American goes to Africa to get married. What do you think?
I feel like the Control Room about my idea.
You think we're over 2 on ideas? Yep. Here's what I say. Do you think Eddie Murphy has anything better right now? No. He got an open Word document. He's just typing Coming to America 2 on it. That's all he's got.
Well, here's the one thing he did that was brilliant and genius. I'm going to play all the parts and get all the money, write it, and everything.
I'm going to write it. I'm going to direct it. I'm going to produce it. I'm going to play every single part. I'm going to get paid individually for every single part. And guess what? I'm going to write all the music for the soundtrack. The Delaware 87ers announced that the team will host a Nickelodeon night featuring uniforms that look like the pink Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. What? I will ask you again. What is a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger?
I'm not sure. I thought I knew what a Power Ranger was until you added 3 and 4 words in front of it and 2 or 3 words behind it. So I'm not sure.
Can I ask a follow-up question? What did I ask you to describe?
Something Morphin Power Ranger.
Good enough. I'll take that as an answer. Great work from you, Mr. Rose.
What was it?
We've asked this question before. It's that time of year again. It's time to look at the NBA landscape and ask certain players, do you ever think about when you're out of here? I'm going to name the name. You assess the situation of this NBA player in the twilight of their playing career.
And also, the reason why I like this segment is while it sounds like it's mean-spirited,
it's not.
It's actually an ode to players that are veterans. Because guess who can't think about when they're out of here? 80 players that are in uniform right now that won't be next year.
Yes.
And you know what else about those 80 guys? A lot of them don't realize it.
This list of players are going to have, some will have jerseys and rafters. Some will be in the Hall of Fame. All have gray hair in their head and their facial hair. We're going to start with a gentleman on a roster right now, will be playing in the playoffs, limited minutes. The Truth, Paul Pierce.
This, as he's acknowledged, will probably be his last year.
Probably?
Well, these are the lost tape years. And when you're a veteran, usually, and you won a championship, in this case, like he has with Doc, When they have you around, it's like, hey, we're just a veteran, so championship experience.
And another thing is it's not like this has been a grueling year on his body. Like, let's be honest. Like, it's not like this is taking a physical toll.
You don't think he could do next year what he's doing this year?
Yeah.
Sit there.
Wear street clothes for half the season and play 8 minutes a game in 20 other games. Like, he could come back.
This will be Paul Pierce's last year of his Hall of Fame career. The Boston Celtics will retire his number. And that's well deserved that he's got these last couple of years to return to California, play for a team in Los Angeles, though it's not the team that he grew up rooting for. Yep. And it's one of those things you're trying to pick your ending.
Not only will Boston put his number in the rafters about 90 miles west of there, he will also be in Springfield, Massachusetts in the Hall of Fame. Next, more questionable whether or not they will play NBA basketball next year. A gentleman that you played with by the name of what?
Sergeant Vincent Lamar Carter.
Do you ever think about when you're out of here?
Oh, he playing next year.
You're not even, it's not even a thing.
He was just 8 for 8 the other night. The only 40-year-old to ever do that. I seen him do a reverse layup. I seen him do a backwards dunk.
With Paul, it feels like any deal for next year would be a little one-sided, be a little bit, look, we're looking for you to be a veteran presence in the locker room, sort of like a half coach, half player. With Vince, like, we're looking for you to put up buckets, to perform, and to play heavy minutes.
So, only skill traits. I'm glad you used those two players first. Because it's somebody that's had both of them score 30 or 40 on me, but I've also scored 30 or 40 on them. Really hard to guard. Because that's when a forward had to play complete phases of the game to be a three in particular. You had to be able to post up some. Had to be able to play mid-range, jab, step, 1-2, pull up a jumper, drive all the way to the basket. You had to be a capable three-point shooter.
Yeah.
And so those two guys cover each phase of the game offensively. The difference in one being able to still play and perform and the other not is one, Vince Carter is one of the greatest athletes we've ever seen. Yes. So at 40 years old, though he can't jump as high as he used to, he's still jumping higher than 60% of people in the game.
He put on wax a double clutch reverse dunk. Calm, easy.
We were in the arena this year. They were playing against the Clippers. It was halftime. He came over to give us some dap, say what up, doe. And I was talking about him coming back next year. And I think it was T-Mac or Chauncey was joking about him being done. Everybody know T-Mac is his cousin. I was like, VC, go and hit a 360. Did it easy. Turn the opposite way, easy.
Really?
Yes. He's definitely coming back.
Yep. This next one's a little more interesting. He wants to come back. But Rajon Rondo, do you ever think about when you're out of here?
As a starting point guard, especially on a playoff team, yes. But as far as playing in the league, he got more years left.
He'll be somewhere. He'll be somewhere next year. So let's move on.
And he's not as old as those guys by any means. And he's playing good basketball these last few games that the Bulls been giving him minutes.
Meta World Peace. Do you ever think about when you're out of here?
How much? Y'all want me to play? I don't have to actually participate in the ball game?
Wasn't that this year for Meta World Peace?
It was this year.
Like with Paul Pierce, it's like, okay, I can kind of see him playing for another year, quote unquote, playing for another year. But Meta World Peace, I think we've seen the last of him in a uniform.
Here's probably where I lean more towards what you're saying. Magic Johnson clean house. He got rid of John Black.
Yeah, he got rid of John
Black.
So
he's looking at the roster too.
Yeah.
You better enjoy this last 15 games, sir.
No, you're not going to be the assistant coach. But listen, tell your agent.
Luke might put him on the staff.
That you love Chinese food, and you can join Steph Marbury out there. You'll love it.
I'm going to drop a nugget. Meta World Peace will be on their coaching staff, though he's out of here as a player next year. Mark my words.
Really? Remember where you heard it first, Jalen Jacoby. March 16th, Jalen Rose predicting that Meta World Peace will be hired as a coach in the NBA. A sentence that I would never imagine I would ever utter just a decade ago. Now, We're going to look at someone who is contending.
Dirk is coming back for his 20th
We're not even going
year.
to do that. Dirk's coming back. Let's breeze through some for me. Is Dirk coming back?
Yes.
Is David West playing next season?
A big body that can still make a mid-range shot, defend his position. Yes, David West will be back.
Is Mike Dunleavy going to play in the NBA next year?
He's just been injured the last few years. So, yes, because there will be a team that says if he's healthy.
Chris Birdman.
Yeah, he won't be back.
Manu Ginobili.
He won't be back.
That's so sad.
Manu's going to the Hall of Fame. I want to give props to Manu.
Richard Jefferson.
He'll be back. You already showed everybody he get what in what a game?
1 dunk and 1 3-pointer. It is shaping up to be a interesting finish for the 8th seed in both the Eastern and Western Conference. What we've done is we've asked people on our 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed to tell us who they think will find out, who they think will be in the 8th spot in the Eastern and Western Conference. And our staff has given us some numbers, some research that helps shed some light on the remaining schedules and the chances that each team has.
This research is nice. It's going back in my bag.
Before one thing that Jalen does is uses his research from Jalen Jacoby on NBA Countdown to drop nuggets that no one else on the set has. I can see Chauncey sometimes looking at you like, that wasn't in the research package, Jalen. So before we get into it, we'll just give you the current landscape. Right now, in the Western Conference, Denver holds the 8th seed, followed by the Trailblazers, and a distant third would be the Mavericks, and even more distant, the Timberwolves. We're not going to talk about the Kings or the Pelicans' chances of getting into the 8th seed because it's just not going to happen. Nope. But Jalen, Nuggets, Blazers, Mavericks, who gets the 8th seed?
I love the balance that Nurkic has brought the Portland Trail Blazers, a guard-oriented team, led affectionately by the Mama's boys, Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum.
I feel a buck coming.
They will take this down to the wire if they're able to get consistent productivity from Crab.
Who's been playing well lately?
They've paid him as well as Turner and Leonard this year.
So much.
And it's always good when those players play well. I'm still going to take the Nuggets, however.
They are 2 games up with not too many games left.
And your guys inside, Jokic, who's come on in his second year getting double-doubles, 4 times getting a triple-double, has really flourished. Adding Plumlee, Barton on the perimeter, Wilson Chandler, Gallinari. What do you call the new 4 and 5 combination in Denver?
The Birch Brothers.
We'll
so
lead
let
the
me
Nuggets
ask you
to the
this
playoffs.
question. I also believe the Nuggets will hold it, as do some of the people that tweeted us. My question for you is
Boris Diaw on the free throw line. What do you call him?
Stretch mark 4.
Okay.
He's living up to it. One more question. Boris Diaw. Throwing it out there. Who would you rather see face the Warriors? The new upstart Nuggets who haven't been in the playoffs for a while, to have a new look and feel, or the Blazers who have faced the Warriors and not had success?
There are 4 backcourts in the league where each member averages 20-plus points. So that would be 2 of them facing one another if it's the Blazers and Warriors. That's not good for Portland.
No.
I would like to see the size of Denver, and if it could give the Golden State Warriors at least enough problems to take 1 game, possibly 2 if they're lucky.
Kingston Hawk tweeted us that he thinks the Nuggets are going to be in the 8th seed in the West, and he wrote, best, quote, great weed to boring city ratio equals a healthy, rested roster. I'm going to say this. Denver not boring.
Not boring.
Denver's not boring. I've been in Denver multiple times.
And those are my first 2 years in the league. My first checks. Bought my first house, first car, first piece of furniture, my first pool table. And athletes always buy pool tables and pianos and never learn how to do either one.
Of course not. I mean, you could fake your way through a pool game, I'm sure, but you could not fake your way through a piano song. Nope. So let's take it to the East. Things are a little bit more Interesting.
To the East, my brother.
Now we're
going
to show you how the East Coast rocks. You've got. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, who is that in the 8 spot?
Detroit basketball.
According to these numbers, they have a 61% chance of making the playoffs.
I'm fascinated because the teams between 7 and 10 right now in the East, the Pacers, Bucks, Pistons, Heat, are literally teams that could go either way. Now, Indiana's going to be in.
Yeah.
Because they have 35 current wins.
But there are 2 games that separate the Pacers, the Bucks, the Pistons, and the Heat. I do not believe without Dwayne Wade, Chicago is going to make a move, so we are not going to speak on them anymore. Is that fair? Is that fair?
Well, it's fair for me because I said that I didn't think they were getting in with them.
They weren't really even trying. They're winning
You
games here and
think
there.
they want to be in the AFC going against LeBron in the first round?
They don't want to be in the
with
same
that
locker room with each other
veteran-laden
anymore.
team?
They don't want to spend another 2 weeks with each other.
Get healthy soon, D-Wade.
The Pacers are going to be in.
Yep.
The Bucks are only a half game ahead of Miami and Detroit. I'm not ready to put them in. I would bet that they would be in, but it's not like the Pacers.
Well, the Pacers are in, and the Heat are in.
What?
Oh, the Heat are in.
What?
Have you seen Goran Dragic? Have you seen Hassan Whiteside? Have you seen Dion Waiters?
Do you realize
Eric
what you just
Spoelstra?
did? Do you realize what you just did? Do you know what you just did? You might have just taken 2 playoff games, 2 playoff home losses away from your Detroit Pistons.
Miami getting in.
So if Miami's in and the Pistons are in, that means the Bucks are out?
That means the Bucks are going to be on the outside looking in.
Are you just saying that because you're from Detroit?
No.
Let's go back to our man Kingston Hawk. He picked the Pistons as well. He said Wade and Waiters are in Miami competing for spring breakers. Cold City advantage to Detroit. I like Kingston Hawk. He knows what's really going on.
Detroit was in last year. They'll get in again this year.
Do you think that if you think the Heat, so you are saying
No,
that
I
the
don't
Milwaukee
think. No,
Bucks.
hit the brakes. I don't think that the Heat are getting in.
Don't say it, Jalen.
The Heat will be getting in.
I'm not so sure, Mr. Rose. Let's take a look at their schedule moving forward. The Miami Heat have, the 17th hardest schedule in the league, which is pretty good for them. 6th hardest schedule in the conference. They seem to be in a spot where they could make a move. But here's the thing, Jalen. You know when your playoff life rests on the shoulders of a gentleman by the name of Dion Waiters, anything can happen. Anything can happen.
It don't rest on him. It rests on Pat Riley. Rest on Eric Spoelstra. When people were giving them the side eye for deciding to remake their roster and not give Wade a 3-year contract. They had to endure losing Chris Bosh and LeBron James the last couple of years.
You know that the Pistons have lost 2 games in a row, right?
Yes, I watched the last night's game, and Stan Van Gundy, and I agree, called it the worst game of the season.
You know that the Pistons have only won 5 of their last 10, right?
Yeah, I know.
And you know that the Heat and the Bucks have won 7 of their last 10, and they're both coming off a win.
Sure.
They're trending up while the Pistons are trending down. What I'm trying to say to you is that the Heat might get a playoff spot, but you know who won't get a playoff spot? It's going to be so exciting when the Pistons move downtown. There's so much to look forward to. Just not a playoff series against the Cavs.
Stop it.
You don't want to look forward to that. I'm just being honest.
You talking like the Bucks,
I'm just
Pistons.
being honest.
You talking about like the Bucks, Pistons, and
I'm
Heat
just being honest.
all don't have 33 wins.
If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us a voicemail. If you leave us a voicemail, we'll play it on the show like this one.
Hey, it's Don from the Florida Panhandle. I was just wondering, with all the injuries going on with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Warriors, do you think there's a chance that another team other than those two that could win the championship?
Don, there's always a chance. Even with no injuries, there's always a chance. That's one of the great things about NBA basketball. However, tonight, starting for the Cleveland Cavaliers, not just Earl J.R. Smith, also Kevin Love. Yep. if you don't count Bogut as someone who played on their team because he only played for 56 seconds, the Cavs, in theory, are at full strength. The Warriors, there's a little bit more cause for concern because the Western Conference offers a lot more competition for that top spot.
It's the same cast of characters coming into the year that 3 teams are going to win this year's championship. If it ain't the Cavs or the Warriors, it's going to be the Spurs. That's not changing. The intrigue... Huh? Huh?
Rockets?
Come on. Don't bet on it.
Rockets can get hot. I wouldn't bet on it. They can get hot.
Okay, that means they got to play who in the finals?
Cavs.
Okay. Here's the intrigue that I want fans of the NBA to follow the last 15 games. These are the true storylines.
Okay.
The 7th and 8th seed in the East. There are about 4 teams vying for that. And who's going to have the opportunity to play against the Warriors or the Cavs in the conference finals? That's the true intrigue. And third, obviously, if KD's going to come back, who's going to get the number 1 seed? Because if the Spurs get the number 1 seed and we get Warriors and OKC in the first round of the playoffs, those were the storylines going into it.
Love Warriors and OKC in the first round. There are a lot of storylines that you're missing too. Like, it looks like we're headed for a Jazz Clippers series, which is like, remember when Chris Paul was on the way down on the escalator and Steph Curry was on the way up in the escalator in that State Farm commercial we keep talking about? It does feel like we're having one of those moments with the Jazz and the Clippers where it's like, hey, your window might be closing, and the Jazz are like, hey, our window might be closing too because we might not have our man Hayward next year. But let's move on to the next voicemail.
Yes, this is Rob. This question is for Jalen and Jacoby. If you had a child that was similar to the way that the ball guy is playing at UCLA, you as a parent, would you brag and boast the way that the father is publicly? I mean, Kobe's father didn't do it, from my recollection, or even LeBron's mom didn't do it, from my recollection. Just give me your thoughts.
Shout out to Rob. Jalen, you had an angle on this that was so insightful.
Thank you.
So enlightening.
Thank you.
That I'm surprised I haven't heard it anywhere else.
Well, people that listen to our program, they probably get a chance to run with it.
That's why I'm surprised I haven't heard it somewhere else. And what was that angle on the persona and the actions of LeVar Ball?
We're just acting like this is a new thing with LeVar Ball and how he's really enthusiastic in front of the cameras and confident and braggadocious about his kids for one reason. He's the dad, not the mom.
If it was the mom, consider this. If you're listening to this podcast or radio show,
I'm fighting the cold.
Consider this. If LeVar Ball was Tina Ball and acted the exact same way, would you scrutinize her actions the same way? I'm going to say you wouldn't. I think that we look at it differently based on our gender bias, which is ingrained in our society for millennia. We're not going to solve that here in the next hour and a half. But it's very interesting to me when you propose that. I immediately said to myself, I would treat it differently if it was the mom instead of the dad. I would.
Well, here's the thing. Normally, and frankly, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it.
Why are you making me nervous?
You should be. So I'm going to say this. Yeah, this is a don't get fired comment. So, like, this is coming from someone that never met his biological father, who was also a professional athlete, the number 1 pick in the draft, was a better collegiate and professional player than me. I have my basketball genes solely from him. I have amazing brothers and sisters that are older than me, but they are not athletes. They have a different father. With that being said, basketball and football are sports that are predominantly black. And I'm not going to give any statistics about how many of those players come from single-parent homes or even elaborate on what level of relationships they may have with their fathers. But what I will say is when you're watching these athletes matriculate through high school, college, and pros, there are a lot more broken families than two-parent households.
I think that's fair to say.
And because of that, we usually don't even have the opportunity, just based solely on those numbers sometimes, to see somebody whose kids are as talented like Earl Woods, like Richard Williams, that brag on their kids. But here's another word that I learned, and I got this from Steve Alford. And this is the rub that people have to get used to.
What's that?
He don't realize what he was saying, but I was listening intently. When he was talking about whether LeVar Ball was a distraction or not to the team and or to his kids, the coach distinctly said this. They were trained to approach the game like they wanted to be the greatest of all time. He didn't say root really hard. He didn't say be a sympathetic dad or even be a coach. He said trained. And the people that I used as an example, you see what happened with Tiger. You see what happened with the Williams sisters. This is the vein that he's falling into. We'll see if it works, depending on how well his kids continue to play basketball.
We're playing the run theme music today because a long time ago, I did something. About 4 or 5 months ago, I said, I've always told myself I was going to run a marathon before I pass.
Wow.
And it's a bucket list thing. I have to do it. And I only work on deadlines. So I committed. I paid $185, I believe. For some reason, you have to pay $185 to run 26 miles. I don't know how that works.
You're taking up space.
I don't know how that works. But I paid $185.
You're going to have to start paying for air eventually.
Once I paid the $185, I'm doing it, no matter what. And I dedicated myself to running this marathon. Early on, I didn't take the training that serious. I just kind of did my regular running, which is like push the babies around 4 miles, probably 3 or 4 times a week.
Which, by the way, now, I can't let you just kind of throw that out there like that's a light thing. Every single day, David Jacoby is out pushing his kids in strollers while he runs 4 miles. That's every day. That has nothing to do with the marathon.
Oh, that's just a part of the morning routine.
And I'm not going to give away the neighborhood that he lives in, but there's a large couple of hills.
Yes.
That
very hilly neighborhood.
He has to endure that I don't even like driving on.
And when you see me go up those hills, I'm really pushing the definition of the word run. You know, I'm really pushing it. I'm not walking, but I don't know if I'm running either. But I was out with a friend of both Jalen and ours, a gentleman by the name of Jamie Horowitz. And we both love the Patriots. I'm a Die Easy fan. He's a Die Hard fan. And he has run a marathon before, so I asked him some advice. And he's like, so what are you up to in terms of, like, how many your longest run? I said, I ran 7 miles. And he looked at me with a look of concern on his face, because this is about 2 months out from the marathon. He said to me, you have to be in shape to run the marathon. That's all I had to say. And I went home and I Googled how to run a marathon, how to train for a marathon. And I realized that you have to go on at least one long run.
Like, wait, hold on. I actually have to run 25, 26 miles
before I run 25, 26 miles. Once I learned that, I was like, I got to take this a little bit more seriously. So I bought some fancy socks, and I started doing my long runs. And now I've gotten up to a 19-mile run, and now I'm looking at 26 miles in the face, and I'm terrified. I
ran cross country in high school and don't think I've ever run over 3 miles for no reason.
Well, a cross country race is 3.2 miles, so you've probably done it. You probably cut some corners, though, to be fair.
You know what we were doing.
I know what you were doing.
We was pushing down all the other teams.
And what I did while I was running for this marathon, I didn't really want to tell Jalen that I was going to support the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy, because I just assumed that I would injure myself during training and it would all fall apart. But I have set up a GoFundMe page, GoFundMe.com/Jacoby, JRLA. If you would like to support, it's been so humbling to see people give their money towards the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy cause in this way. Because just to think that some stranger out there that just enjoys this podcast and radio show decided to support these children just because I decided to do something stupid like run a marathon is just so flattering and humbling. And I owe serious appreciation to everyone that gave $1 or more to this cause.
No question. And just a snapshot, Jalen Rose Leadership Academy is a tuition-free public charter high school.
Where?
We get zeros in my hometown of Detroit. We get zero state funding for our facility. Not to rent, not to purchase, not to own, not to renovate, not to expand.
What?
Zero state funding. So efforts like yours are paramount in order for us to have an opportunity to even host 415 plus students each day and try to put them on the path of not only graduating from high school, but graduating from college and giving them the life and social skills they need to be successful in their lives, to make those that they love proud of them and themselves, to have an opportunity to chase their goals and dreams. So whether it's the fast money round in Family Feud, whether it's your participation in coming to Detroit the last couple of years for our golf outing, we're definitely humbled by your leadership and your support. And also, everybody that donates to our school, we treat it like they've given $1 million, because that's how humble we are. So I am forever grateful, not only to you, but for all of those who have contributed in any way, shape, or form.
It's really humbling and impressive, and I did need some advice because I am a little apprehensive about this. I'm nervous. Like I think about it often, if whether or not I'll be able to do this, and it's scary. So I wanted some advice. I knew I couldn't ask you, Jalen, because you would never do this.
No.
But I asked our listeners and watchers on Twitter from our 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed, and here's some of the advice that they gave me. You ready, Mr. Rose?
Yes, indeed.
If you have to pee while running, splash water in the area and then let it go. That's a great advice from Get Down. However, that sounds like someone who's really concerned with their time. You know what I mean? Like that. Like, I'm not that concerned about my time. I'm not going to pee on myself to save 30 seconds. I will much rather just have that 30 seconds added to my time while I wait in line to use a porta potty. And also, I'm from New York. I'll pee anywhere. I think people in other cities don't pee like they pee in New York. In New York City, you'll see businessmen just like peeing into payphone booths, peeing on the stoops. Like, for some reason, peeing on the street is accepted in New York City much more than other places. So I will pee on the street if I have to. I'll duck off into a corner and pee if I really have to.
Well, in New York City, on the corners, a lot of things are being sold. In particular, something I call street meat.
Mm-hmm.
In California, in particular Los Angeles,
green juice.
They have green juice
Kale.
or fruit.
Exactly. That's a great just sort of. You have a cart in New York City. It sells you nondescribed meat that you're not really sure what the source is. It's been there. It's not that hot and it's stinky. Here, fresh fruit with a smile. Nick has this advice. I've run 10 marathons. Shout out to Nick. Sleep is the key. Good sleep leads to good training. Here's my problem with that one. Here's one thing about David Jacoby. A couple things. Number one, if I know I have to wake up early for something that's a big deal the next day, I don't sleep that well. Another thing. This is from Thunder Chunky. Thunder Chunky said, don't eat fried catfish and cheesy grits before running. Just don't. I really appreciate the tweet, Thunder Chunky, but that wasn't really on the menu for the night before a marathon.
What?
This is from Darth Choice.
Sound like that tweet is from the South.
Cold bath, compression tights, and make sure someone else is driving you home. Good luck. All right, a couple things. Number one, cold bath. I love that. Someone else driving me home? Of course. Here's what I can't get with, and I could never get with. I don't care how good they make your legs feel. I don't care if they make you run faster, better, stronger. You don't even feel it if you run a marathon. Here's the thing. I'm not wearing tights. I'm not. I just can't do it. I can't sit there for 2 minutes pulling tights on my legs and stretching them out and just doing all those things that I see my wife doing before we go out. Like, I don't wear Spanx.
Getting on the bed.
Yeah.
Trying to pull them up over your waist.
Yeah. And then just like tugging at the crotch. Like, you know what? Some of the best basketball players on the planet. Russell Westbrook dominates the NBA every single night with tights on. I can't get with the tights, Russ. Next, I asked people what I should listen to. A lot of Tupac. Audiobook was out there. Chariots of Fire is out there. 36 Chambers is out there. Here's my strategy. I'm lazy. I listen to Apple Music. And they've got these things called Essentials. So if you put in Cameron Essentials, it just gives you like 10 classic Cameron. So I think I'm just going to pick some artists. I'm going to rock with Raekwon. I'm I'm gonna rock with Cameron, Redman, just like and Smith & Wesson,
Duck Down,
Helter Skelter,
Beastie Boys.
It's gonna be Beastie Boys. It's gonna be essentials, classics that I know all the words to. I'm not gonna be listening to the new cool stuff. I'm going back to what my comfort zone is, which is 1994 to 2004 hip hop.
How many hours do you think it's going to take you to complete this marathon?
9. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for listening on ESPN Radio, for watching on ESPN2 and ESPN News, and of course subscribing to the Jalen and Jacoby podcast.
GoFundMe.com/Jacoby JRLA.
Shout out